Hey peeps, what's up? Munchie here, back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can install macOS Ventura on unsupported Macs. Now, as you can see, this is the official hosting page or the official landing page of macOS Ventura on apple.com. Now, for your iMacs, it is 2017 and later. Same thing applies for iMac Pro. MacBook Air is 2018 and later. MacBook Pro is 2017 and later, and these here are all the different Macs which Apple makes, and these are the only Macs which officially support macOS Ventura, which means if you have an older Mac which is prior to these models, then you are out of luck. However, there is an open source application called OpenCore Legacy Patcher which helps us install macOS Ventura on unsupported Macs. Now, once you click on this getting started page, you will land up on this page here. And if you go into supported models, these are all the MacBook models which they support for MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, Mac Mini, iMacs. Now, you will notice that the SM BIOS they are mentioning is like MacBook Pro 2, 1, 11, 1, and then they mention the year in the next column, and the next column tells you what is supported and what is not supported. So as you can see, for MacBook Pro early 2006, you have a 32-bit CPU limitation and it is not supported. Then for mid 2009, you have Monterey and older. Then 2013 and above, everything is supported and it is supported. So how do you find out what MacBook you have? Well, you tap on this Apple logo on the top left, go into about this Mac, and as you can see, I have the MacBook Pro which is mid 2015. If you click on system report, you will land on this page, and herein is your model identifier. So I have MacBook Pro 11,4, and here it is MacBook Pro 11,4 on their list of supported Macs. So this is how you determine whether you can use OpenCore Legacy Patcher to install macOS Ventura on an unsupported Mac or not. And of course, you can find the source code of this on GitHub as well. All the relevant links which we are going to use in this video can be found in the description of the video. Next thing we can talk about is what are the prerequisites for this video for you to install macOS Ventura on an unsupported Mac. One, you will need a USB drive, minimum 16 GB. How fast macOS Ventura is installed, how fast the bootable drive is created, all of that depends on the quality of your USB drive or the external hard drive which you might be using. Next up, the external hard drive or external USB drive is going to be erased completely. So make sure any data which you have on that USB drive or external hard drive, you have a backup of that. Next up, for your existing data, you will have the option of either preserving your existing data, which means you can update, or you can perform a fresh install as well. I'm going to show you both of those, but I do recommend that you create a time machine backup of your data in the current state on your MacBook, your MacBook Pro, your iMac, or your Mac Minis, so that you do not have any data loss. Then the other thing I recommend is you have a bootable USB drive, a separate bootable USB drive of the existing Mac OS version which you are using. So in my case right now, I am on Mac OS Monterey 12.6.2. So I do recommend that you have a bootable USB drive for macOS which you're currently using, in my case macOS Monterey, and that is because in case things go south, you have a backup drive from wherein you can bring your system back up and running without having to go and ask your friends or create a bootable USB drive. And before I forget, another super important thing which you need is time and patience. Do this when you have enough time, because you have to go slow and steady, and you should not be in a rush when you are trying to install this macOS Ventura on your unsupported Mac. Now, before we get down to the actual steps, here is a high-level overview of all the things which we are going to do in this video. So first of all, we're going to format the external USB drive. Next up, we're going to download and install OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Then we're going to use OpenCore Legacy Patcher to download the macOS Ventura installer. And next up, we're going to create a bootable macOS Ventura USB drive by using the OpenCore Legacy Patcher from step 2 and the macOS Ventura installer from step 3. Then we are going to boot using this USB drive which we created in step 4 in step 5, and therein you can choose whether you want a clean install or you want to update to macOS Ventura. And once that process has finished, then we are going to install this OpenCore Legacy Patcher to the internal drive so that you can boot into macOS Ventura without having to attach the bootable USB drive to your MacBook Pro, your MacBook Air, your Mac Mini, or your iMac. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to format our USB drive which we have connected. So for that, we can go into Finder, then you can go into Applications, Utilities, and herein you can open the disk utility application. Now, once you do this, you have to tap on this down arrow besides the disk utility text, and herein you are going to select show all devices if it is not already selected. Then you need to select your USB drive. In my case, I have this SanDisk Ultra. Now make sure you select the top level, not this one, but the top level, and then you need to select erase. Once you do that, you can give it an appropriate name. So in my case, let us give it the name OLP, and then we can also add installer so that we know that we are using the USB drive. Then for the next thing is Mac OS extended, and for your scheme you need to use GUID partition map. So give it an appropriate name. Format is macOS extended and the scheme is GUID partition map, and we are going to say erase. Now, as you can see, we are getting the message operation successful. So we are going to say done. And at this point, this USB drive here is ready to be set up using your OpenCore Legacy Patcher so that we can install your macOS Ventura on an unsupported Mac. Next thing we need to do is we need to download OpenCore Legacy Patcher. So this here is the GitHub page for OpenCore Legacy Patcher. And herein you need to go into the releases section. Once you are in the releases section, this here is the latest release at the time of recording this video. So I do recommend that you use the latest release, whatever it is. Then on the latest release, if you scroll down, you will see something called assets, and if this section is not expanded, all you need to do is select this arrow, click on it, and it will be expanded. Herein we need to download this OpenCore Patcher GUI app.zip. So all we're going to do is click on this file name and then we can save it. So herein you can choose wherever you want to save this. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Now once OpenCore Legacy Patcher has been downloaded successfully, the next thing we need to do is extract it. So here it is on our home screen. This is a zip file, and to extract it, all you need to do is double click on it, or you can use any application which you might have installed. I will say open with the archive utility app, which is the default unarchive application for Mac OS. And here it is. This is OpenCore Patcher application. The next thing we're going to do is double click on it to open this application. And as you can see, macOS is giving us a warning that, this is an application you downloaded from the internet. Do you want to open it? Select open. And bam, here it is. This is the menu for OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to download Mac OS Ventura. So we are going to select over here create macOS installer. Once you select this, you have to select download macOS installer, and right now it is downloading the installer catalog. Now for macOS Ventura, we are going to select macOS 13.1. Again, as you can see, this is around 12.2 GB, so this is going to take some time once you have clicked on it, and there it is. Right now we are downloading the macOS Ventura installer onto our MacBook. So as you can see, we are almost close to 100% downloading the Mac OS Ventura installer on our unsupported Mac. And there it is. Once it has downloaded the installer, it is going to verify it as well to make sure there were no issues with the download, or for that matter, the installer is not corrupt. Now, once the verification process has finished, it is going to install it into the applications folder, but you do have to enter your admin password. And once you've entered your password, all you need to do is select OK. Now, once it has finished extracting it to the application folder, you are going to get a message. And if you go to your applications folder now, you will see something called install macOS Ventura app. And if I double click on it to install this Ventura on my Mac, it is not going to let me do so because I have an unsupported Mac. So here it is. You can see macOS Ventura is not compatible with this Mac. So we are going to quit this. Now we will go back to our OpenCore Legacy Patcher, and we are going to say flash the installer. Now it by default found the macOS Ventura which we had downloaded. So it is telling us installers found in applications folder. So we need to select this one, install macOS Ventura 13.1. Now it is asking for access to the files on a removable volume. So we are going to select OK over here. And as you can see, this here is disk 2. This is my USB 3.0 flash drive which I have attached to my MacBook. Of course, you need to make sure that your USB drive is 14 GB and above. So of course a minimum of 16 GB is required, and herein we are going to select our USB drive. And as you can see, now it is formatting and flashing the installer onto the drive. You do need to enter your admin password one more time. And then once you entered the password, we are going to select OK. And at this point, it is writing the flasher of macOS Ventura to our USB drive. And again, this process will take some time, so you have to be patient. So as you can see, we just got a pop-up message that it has successfully created the Mac OS installer. Now, the next thing which we need to do is install OpenCore to disk. And by disk, we mean the USB drive over here, because until and unless you have OpenCore on your USB drive, it is not going to boot up. So we are going to select install OpenCore to disk, and it built. And the next thing we are doing now is select install to disk one more time. And over here, you need to select disk 2. In my case, it is disk 2, but you need to select your USB drive. So we're going to select disk 2, and the partition is disk 2 EFI. Select this, and you will have to enter your admin password one more time. And once you've entered your password, you're going to select OK. And there it is. You can see it has now successfully installed OpenCore to the USB drive, and at this point your USB drive is bootable with Mac OS Ventura on it. So either you can select reboot, or you can select ignore to reboot your MacBook manually, but to boot using the USB drive, it does have to be connected to your MacBook. So on this screen, I am going to choose ignore because there's another thing which I would like to do. I would like to go to my USB drive, the one which we just created, which is your Mac OS Ventura bootable, and I would like to move this OpenCore Patcher app over here as well, just in case I need it on the fly once I have installed macOS Ventura on my unsupported Mac. Now, once this is done, the USB drive is still connected. The next step is to boot our macOS using this bootable Ventura drive which we just created. So here we are on the MacBook. Now do note that the USB drive is still connected, and that is our bootable Mac OS Ventura USB which we have created using OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to restart our MacBook. So we will tap on the Apple logo on the top left, and then we are going to select restart and then select restart one more time. As soon as the screen goes black, you have to press the option key. So once the screen goes black, we are going to press the option key. As soon as you hear the chime, pretty soon you should land up on a menu like this. So this here is our menu. Now you can see you have something called the internal drive. So mic is my internal drive. Then you also have install macOS Ventura and you have EFI boot. So we are going to use the arrow key to move to EFI boot and press the enter key. On the next screen you will see different options. You have to select macOS Ventura and then press the enter key. And there it is, you can see on your screen right now the loading bar. Now this will take some time based on the speed of your USB port and the speed of the USB drive or the external hard disk which you are using. Next up, you will land up on a screen like this. So herein you have different options. Either you can perform a clean, fresh install or you can upgrade. I will show you how to do both, but in this video, eventually we're going to do an upgrade. So if you want to do a clean install, go and select disk utility and then select continue. And we have now landed on the disk utility page. Now here on the disk utility page, if you move your cursor, you will see that view thing one more time. So we're going to select view and then we're going to say show all drives. So this is going to show us all the drives which are present right now. And in my case, I have two drives. So this here is my internal MacBook SSD and this here is the bootable macOS Ventura USB which we have created. So in case you want to do a clean install, in that case, your data of course will be wiped. You select your internal SSD wherein you have your current Mac OS. And once you do that, you go into erase, and for your erase options, you can give it any name which you want to. The format will be APFS, wherein APFS stands for Apple File System, and the scheme is going to be GUID partition map, and then you can select erase. Again, this is going to erase out your hard disk, and this is something which you have to use when you are going to perform a fresh clean install. In my case, I'm going for an update, so I am going to close disk utility. However, once you have performed an erase for a fresh clean install, you have to close disk utility once again, and then you will be back on this page. So this here is our menu once again, and then we are going to select install Mac OS Ventura and then select continue. Now on this screen, we are going to select continue, and pretty soon you should see the beach ball rotating. There it is. And you should also get the prompt to agree to the terms and conditions. There it is. We are going to say agree over here and then agree on this prompt as well. And now you have the option to select the disk wherein you have to install macOS Ventura. And right now we are going to select the internal SSD on our MacBook, Mac Mini, or whatever unsupported Mac you are trying to install macOS Ventura on. Select it, and next up we are going to select continue. And there it is. You can see you are now getting a specific amount of time remaining, which will be based on the USB port you are using, the speed of the USB drive, external SSD, whatever you are using. This time may vary according to those speeds and configurations. Another thing I would like to add is make sure you connect your MacBook, if you're using a MacBook, something which is battery powered, to a power supply. At this point, you do not want your MacBook to be turned off because of low battery when you are installing macOS Ventura on it. So when that screen or the loading bar on that screen finished, the system rebooted on its own. We did get the boot menu, but we did not have to press any key. And right now we are on this loading screen wherein it is installing Mac OS Ventura onto our MacBook. Again, this process will depend on the speed of your USB port, your external drive, whether you're using a normal hard drive or you are using a SSD, the speed of your USB drive. So all you have to do is be patient, and again make sure your battery powered MacBook is connected to a power source. And there it is. As you can see, the computer rebooted. We were on the selection screen, but we did not press any key. Everything is happening automatically at this point, and now we are on the loading bar once again. So we are almost at the end of the progress bar, and again the system rebooted on its own. We are on the Apple logo, and we're not going to press any key. Hopefully it boots on its own. So we did not press any key. We are back on the loading bar. It is progressing pretty fast this time around. So again, all we need to do is have some patience. We now have the Apple logo with a loading bar at the bottom. So the loading bar finished, we have the Apple logo, we are on the selection screen one more time, and again we are not pressing any keys, everything is happening on its own. We again have the loading bar progressing, and this I think is like the fourth or the fifth reboot while installing macOS Ventura on my unsupported Mac. And there it is, we now have the Apple logo with the loading bar at the bottom, and right now it is moving along pretty fast. And there it is, after that loading bar finished, we are on the boot selection screen one more time, and again we did not press any key. We again have the loading bar, and before this time the screen went blank, we did have the chime which you get when you are booting into Mac OS, and there it is, we have successfully booted into Mac OS. Let me enter my password and then we can check what version we are on. Now do note I did get a pop-up on the top right that it is optimizing my Mac and that it might be running slow because after every OS update it has to index everything once again. So we are on the accessibility screen right now, and let me select not now over here, and we're going to say continue. Unfortunately, I don't want to share any analytics with Apple at this point. So let me move the camera a bit up so that we can check the version of macOS which we are on, and there it is. You can see on the top right it is telling me it is optimizing my Mac. The fan is of course kicking in because indexing is going to take some time. Let us go into about my Mac, and this here is the about my Mac screen, and as you can see the OS version here is Mac OS Ventura. Now do note, after a few seconds or a few minutes, you should get a pop-up from OpenCore Legacy Patcher, because right now we are booting off the USB drive. Even though macOS Ventura has been successfully installed onto our internal hard disk, it is still requiring the USB drive so that it can boot on this unsupported Mac. Once we get the pop-up from OpenCore Legacy Patcher, we are going to make a few changes to fix that. So it's been a few minutes and we are yet to get the pop-up from OpenCore. So what we're going to do is let's try and open this OpenCore Legacy Patcher application. Now on this screen, we're going to say build and install OpenCore, and it is telling us it is ready. Do we want to install it to disk? We are going to select install to disk. Now at this point it is looking for the disks. An important thing you will notice over here is that disk 2, so this is the flasher which we had created, is in blue. That is because the startup disk right now is on the USB drive, and this is what I meant by right now we are using the USB drive to boot into Mac OS Ventura. Now, at this point, we are going to select disk 0 because we already have Mac OS Ventura installed onto our internal SSD or internal drive, and we want the EFI and the OpenCore configuration on that as well. So we're going to select that disk 0, and we are going to select it one more time. It is going to ask you for your admin password. We are going to enter the password, and once we've entered the password we are going to select OK. So at this point it is cleaning everything, and it is also unmounting things, and next up we are going to reboot. But important thing to note over here is that it is telling us you will need to reboot and hold the option key and select OpenCore boot EFI option to switch back the booting partition or the booting EFI to our internal SSD. So again, as soon as you click on reboot and then you click on restart, you need to press and hold down the option key. Once you do that, we are going to come to a menu and we have the chime, and pretty soon we should have the bootable menu, and herein we can use the arrow keys and you have to go to EFI boot, not to your hard drive. In my case it is mic, neither to install macOS, neither to EFI boot. You have to go to EFI boot on the extreme left, and then the next thing you have to do is press the enter key. And on this screen you don't have to do anything, it will detect everything on its own, and pretty soon we should boot into macOS Ventura. We do have the loading bar on our screen right now. So here it is. Let me enter my password one more time. So we are back on our home screen, and if I go into my Finder, you will see that the USB drive is still there. We are going to eject this and then we can remove it from the system as well. Now you did notice that when we rebooted, we were getting a prompt to choose our internal drive. We can actually skip that or make that disappear. All you have to do is open your OpenCore Legacy Patcher, then you will go into settings. Herein you need to uncheck this show boot picker. Then you are going to return to the main menu, and then we are going to say build and install OpenCore. Once you do that, you have to select install to disk, and the only option right now is our internal drive. So we are going to select that, select it one more time and enter our password once again. Now it is giving us a prompt to reboot and telling us to hold the option key one more time. So we're going to select reboot, restart, and then hold down the option key, and we have the chime. We are going to select the EFI one more time. Here it is. EFI boot is the option which we have, and then we are going to press the enter key. And there it is. This time we did not get the prompt or the boot menu. So we have successfully installed macOS Ventura on an unsupported Another Mac. Important thing to note over here is that some installations of Ventura on unsupported Macs requires post-install patches for all hardware to work on its own and work properly. Now, the option for post-install patches generally pops up on its own if you have created the bootable drive using the OpenCore Legacy Patcher. However, in case it does not pop up for you, what do you do then? Well, all you need to do is open the application, and this here is OpenCore Legacy Patcher. We will go into post install root patch, and as you can see, it is telling me that all applicable patches are installed. In case you do not have all the post install patches installed, it will tell you what all are available for you over here, and then it will give you the option of installing those root patches. So all you have to do is select install root patches and then reboot your system once, and you should be good to go. And there it is, peeps. That is how you install macOS Ventura on unsupported Macs, and that will do it for this video.